Good morning, dear students. We are going to discuss thalamus and third ventricle. So, thalamus topic you should have already read in physiology as well. So, whatever you have studied there will also apply in anatomy. Wherever you have studied, if question comes, you can write, not a problem. Third ventricle is an exclusive anatomy topic which you should learn properly here itself. Okay, so we are going to discuss both the topics today. So when you talk about thalamus, where is thalamus exactly situated? Here we have right and left cerebral hemispheres, and in the median sagittal section, that is in the diencephalon, in the deep part of the brain, we will see the thalamus. Okay, so this is the cut section, median sagittal section of the brain, where it has been zoomed at the part of the corpus callosum. Below corpus callosum, what is this? Septum pellucidum, right? And this is all fornix area, and this is thalamus exactly. This point is interthalamic adhesion. Below thalamus, this area is hypothalamus, and we know this is pituitary gland, anterior and posterior pituitary. Okay, then so here you are finding, like as you come down, this particular area is midbrain. So midbrain, we have this is superior colliculus, inferior colliculus. This point is pineal body. I'm giving you the orientation of this picture so that when you study, you will understand. So this overall now thalamus is this ovoid mass of gray matter in the lateral wall of third ventricle. I said previously also, between the two thalami, whatever cleft is there, whatever space is there that is filled with CSF, that is the place of third ventricle. Okay, then so this thalamus, it is lying dorsal to hypothalamic sulcus. So this area is thalamus, this is hypothalamus. Together we call this is deeper part of the brain. Okay, deeply seated brain, which is called as diencephalon. Okay, of course the other parts we have named many times. Outside part of the brain is telencephalon. Now when this blue in color, sky blue in color structures which have been shown here are the thalami. The measurement antero-posteriorly 4 centimeters, vertical and transverse measurement is 1.5 centimeters. It has two ends like anterior end, posterior end, and it has four surfaces: superior or upper surface, inferior or lower surface. Near the midline, we have medial surface, away from midline, lateral surface. This whole area is thalamus. So this is the anterior end, which is narrow, directed forwards and medially, and it forms posterior boundary of interventricular foramen of Monro, which is connecting right and left ventricles. Okay, so this is you are finding pulvinar part of the thalamus. This blue in color, whatever has been shown, is thalamus. Okay. So this area, this particular part of the brain entirely, it is the thalamus, and this is the pulvinar part of the thalamus. Okay. So this is the posterior end of the pulvinar, which is broad, backwards and laterally beyond the third ventricle. This area between the two thalami is third ventricle. So once the third ventricle is over, whatever area is beyond third ventricle, we have is pulvinar. So it overlaps superior colliculus. This green in color, this area is superior colliculus. This area is inferior colliculus. This is pineal gland. This is medial geniculate body. This is lateral geniculate body. So medial and lateral geniculate bodies are actually parts of the thalamus only. Okay, and if you remember, medial geniculate body receives the connections of the auditory pathway from inferior colliculus. Lateral geniculate body receives the auditory pathway from the superior colliculus of midbrain, right? So now see here, like overlaps, we know the posterior end is overlapping the superior colliculus of midbrain. It presents medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Green arrow shows medial geniculate body, which is inferomedially situated. Blue arrow indicates lateral geniculate body, which is inferolaterally placed. Now, this is the upper surface of the thalamus, which is convex and it is covered by thin sheet of white matter. So this is called as stratum zonate. So dorsolateral margin accompanied by a stria terminalis and thalamostriate vein. This one. This side it is completely shown and this side it has been cut to show the stratum zonate. Okay, then both of which lodge in a groove between thalamus and the caudate nucleus. This is the caudate nucleus and this is the thalamus. Between them we have a groove, that is stratum zonate, where we have stria terminalis and thalamostriate vein. Okay, you can see this is caudate nucleus, head of caudate nucleus, this is thalamus, this is the groove where we have the stria terminalis, thalamostriate vein. Okay, then coming to the upper surface of the thalamus, medially it is separated from medial surface by thickening of ependymal roof, this one, of the third ventricle, okay, which is known as tinea thalami. Dorsomedially accompanied by thin bundle of nerve fibers, stria medullaris thalami, okay, which traced behind forms the anterior boundary of habenular trigone. Then the upper surface is divided into lateral area and medial area by means of the body of fornix. Lateral area forms the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle, covered with ependyma and overlapped by choroid plexus. Medial area is separated from body of fornix by tela choroidea of third ventricle. So in this picture also you can see, like this is corpus callosum, septum pellucidum, below which we are finding body of fornix. This is the choroid plexus for third ventricle. This area is thalamus. Right and left thalami, they are connected by means of interthalamic adhesion. Okay, this is the hypothalamic sulcus which separates the thalamus from the hypothalamus. This I have labeled as pineal body previously, superior and inferior colliculi, right? So this is hypothalamus. Then we have the hypophysis cerebri, nothing but the pituitary gland. This area is optic chiasma, optic tract, right? Okay. So this picture shows right and left cerebral hemispheres, inside which we have cavity, that is lateral ventricle. In between we have third ventricle, then fourth and central canal of spinal cord. Okay, so this is actually completely fornix we are finding. So the parts of the fornix, what you are finding, starts with the mammillary bodies. These are the two columns of the fornix. This is body of fornix. This is connecting the two columns of the fornix. We have commissure of fornix. These are the crura of fornix, which are lying close to amygdaloid bodies. Okay, this is something which you need to practice this diagram. This is fornix. Okay, then this is thalamus, we know, right? So this is the lower surface related to zona incerta. Subthalamic nucleus, subthalamic prolongation of midbrain. This is our midbrain exactly. From here, superior colliculus level, inferior colliculus. Okay, containing rostral end of the red nucleus and substantia nigra. This is the medial surface what we are able to see. It forms the major portion of the lateral wall of third ventricle, dorsal to the hypothalamic sulcus. This is the hypothalamic sulcus. It is lined by ependymal cells. Medial surface of both the thalami, they are connected by means of interthalamic adhesions or connections. Between the two thalami, we have an empty cavity filled with CSF called as third ventricle. Okay. So interthalamic connections are shown with blue arrow over here, which is containing nerve cells and nerve fibers. So this is right thalamus, left thalamus. Between the two thalami, this is the empty cavity which is filled with CSF, and this empty cavity is called as third ventricle. Okay, pineal body, superior and inferior colliculi. Now, see, this is the thalamus, right? So this surface becomes the lateral surface separated from the lentiform nucleus by posterior limb of internal capsule. We have studied internal capsule in our previous class. This is anterior limb, this is genu, posterior limb, sublentiform part and retrolentiform part. To just recollect, this is thalamus, this is lentiform nucleus, and this is caudate nucleus. So lentiform nucleus has two further subdivisions, right? Medially we have globose pallidus, laterally we have putamen. Outermost line of demarcation is actually called as external capsule covered by claustrum. Then coming to the subdivisions of thalamus, a vertical sheet of white matter called as internal medullary lamina, which is shown in green color in this picture. This divides thalamus into medial and lateral nuclear masses. Anteriorly, the lamina splits into Y-shaped manner to enclose anterior group of nuclei. Okay, this is the internal medullary lamina. Another thin sheet of white matter, that is external medullary lamina. It's written here, external medullary lamina, covers the lateral surface of thalamus. Then we have 6 basic groups of nuclear masses of the thalamus with many subgroups. Okay, then now we have anterior group intervening between diverging limbs of the internal medullary lamina. It consists of 3 subgroups like this anterior group. We have anterior ventral, anterior dorsal and anterior medial subdivision. We have medial or dorsomedial group between the internal medullary lamina and the midline nuclei, where we have magnocellular part and parvocellular part, okay, which are in the dorsomedial group, DM in the sense dorsomedial group. Then we have lateral group. So lateral group is largest group of the nuclear masses arranged in vertical and dorsal tiers. Okay, so this complete thing is the lateral group, which is the largest among all. The ventral tier, it consists of everything is shown here. You need to learn this labeled picture. We have ventral anterior, ventral lateral and ventral posterior. So further ventral posterior is subdivided into ventral posterolateral and posteromedial and posterior-intermediate part. Okay, so that means we have lateral, we have medial and intermediate in this last subdivision. Okay, then apart from this, this is very important. So in the ventral tier, we also have lateral and medial geniculate bodies. Together, they form metathalamus, which lies beneath pulvinar part of thalamus. P is basically standing for pulvinar part. Okay, below pulvinar part, we have medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Now, the dorsal or lateral tier represents rostrodorsally, lateral dorsal nucleus, lateral posterior nucleus, and pulvinar. Okay, so pulvinar is monopolis, posterior end of the thalamus. Now, intralaminar nuclei, it forms discrete group of nuclear masses which are located within the substance of internal medullary lamina. So there we have centromedian nucleus, which forms the prominent nucleus in the middle third of the thalamus. Then parafascicular nucleus lies medial to centromedian nucleus. So the midline nuclei, here you can see, these are the group of nuclear masses which intervenes between dorsomedial nucleus and ependymal lateral wall of the third ventricle. Okay, this is completely thalamus. And of course, these are the various nuclei. If you have studied in a different way in physiology, you can continue the same thing because the structural importance is more important in physiology than in anatomy. Then we have reticular, like thalamic nucleus. It forms a thin shell of nuclear mass. This one, reticular nucleus, which envelopes ventrolateral aspect of the thalamus and intervenes between external medullary laminae, which is this, and the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Now coming to the connections of the thalamic nuclei, the anterior group, which is the anterior group, this one which is shown in violet color, functions is it is incorporated in Pappas circuit of limbic system. Hence, lesions affecting anterior group may produce Korsakoff syndrome with loss of recent memory. Okay, so the connections we have is mammillary body, mammillothalamic tract, anterior nuclei. Through anterior thalamic radiation, it is related to cingulate gyrus. So this is the structure of fornix, what we have already seen. Pappas circuit is also a part of limbic system, very, very important as a limbic system part. So the connections we can see from the hippocampal formation through fornix, the tracts are reaching to mammillary bodies through mammillothalamic tract. It is going to anterior thalamic nucleus through anterior thalamic radiation, cingulate gyrus. Through cingulum, it is connected to parahippocampal gyrus, and through prefrontal and alveolar pathway, it is connected to hippocampal formation. So whole of this circuit is Pappas circuit. Now dorsomedial group functions as integrating center for somatic and visceral impulses. Through its connections with prefrontal cortex, it provides mood or feeling tone to emotional aspect of behavior. So we have to and fro connection. That means afferents and efferents moving in both the directions from prefrontal cortex to medial dorsal nucleus to prefrontal cortex. So amygdaloid olfactory globus pallidus gives the tracts to medial dorsal nucleus of thalamus, from where it is relayed to prefrontal cortex. Okay. So nuclei of ventral tire, the connections are, see, from the globus pallidus and substantia nigra, it is moving to ventral anterior nucleus of thalamus. From dentate nucleus of cerebellum, the tracts are moving to ventrolateral nucleus. So ventral anterior nucleus goes to premotor area number 6 of cerebral cortex. Ventral lateral nucleus takes the tracts to motor area number 4 of the cerebral cortex. So we have ventral anterior and ventral lateral nuclei conveying information to motor areas of frontal lobe from corpus striatum and substantia nigra. In degenerative lesions of basal ganglia, thalamic nuclei discharge abnormally and give rise to dyskinesia. Ventral lateral intermediate nucleus conveys impulses from cerebellum and basal ganglia to motor cortex and exerts its role as a prime mover of motor pathway. Surgical ablation of this ventrolateral along with ventral anterior may abolish tremor and rigidity of Parkinson's disease. So now ventral posterior nucleus is receiving the afferents from trigeminothalamic tract, solitariothalamic tract to medial part, ventromedial, ventral posterior medial nucleus of the thalamus, then medial lemniscus and spinothalamic tracts via lateral part of the nucleus. They are reaching to ventral posterior nucleus. From here, the tracts are moving to cerebral cortex to somatosensory areas, like areas number 3 to 1. Okay. So these are the different connections we have. These bodies, see whether you read something from the exclusive part of thalamus of anatomy or not. I want every one of you to read medial and lateral geniculate bodies thoroughly, because these are the two subtopics from the thalamus which are usually asked in university exam. Okay. Now see here, we have medial geniculate body below pulvinar, I said, right? So it receives afferents from auditory input from both ears via lateral lemniscus and inferior colliculus. Efferents are projected to primary auditory cortex, that is the transverse gyre of Heschel, through auditory radiations. That is the medial geniculate body, this one. Okay, so first thing, these are all afferents, and these are the efferents going to the acoustic area of the cerebral cortex. Please draw this diagram and write these few points, only these two slides, to help you gain at least 5 marks in your final exam. Okay, so this is related to actually auditory pathway. So once you are done, this picture is enough, in fact, first and second slides, these two. Now, lateral geniculate body. It consists of ventral and dorsal parts. Ventral part is rudimentary in human beings and it is a derivative of zona incerta of subthalamus. Dorsal part forms a significant elevation beneath pulvinar and consists of 6 layers of neurons in horseshoe-shaped mass with hilum directed ventromedially. The layers are counted from hilum to the periphery and are separated from one another by fibers of optic tract. About 1 million neurons are estimated to be present in the dorsal part of each lateral geniculate body in human beings. This is the most probable question. Medial geniculate body, lateral geniculate body. So pause this video at this point and try to understand each and every point from this slide. Okay. So dorsal part is very well developed, horseshoe shaped, and it has 6 layers, right? Ventral part is not so much well developed in human beings. Then we have afferents. Okay, afferents are coming from retinofugal fibers, lateral root of the optic tract, crossed fibers opposite side of the retina, terminate in layers 1, 4 and 6 of the medial geniculate body. Uncrossed fibers are terminating in layers 2, 3, 5 of lateral geniculate body. So projected to primary visual cortex. If you remember, occipital lobe, where we have the area number 17 or striate area. So finally, this optic tract and optic pathway, it is reaching the lateral geniculate body. Okay. So through optic radiations or geniculocalcarine tract. So similarly, we have nuclei of dorsal. So anterior and medial group of thalamic nuclei, they are passing via the lateral dorsal nuclei to cingulate and parahippocampal gyrus and hippocampus. Ventral posterior groups of thalamic nuclei via lateral posterior nucleus, they reach to superior parietal lobule, area number 5 and 7 of the cerebral cortex. Lateral and medial geniculate bodies, superior colliculus of the midbrain. Through pulvinar, they reach association areas of parietal, occipital and temporal lobes. Okay. So overall, now see here, the cerebral cortex is receiving connections. Everything is passing via various nuclei of the thalamus, isn't it? So spinothalamic tracts, they go via anterior posterior group, intralaminar nuclei, finally reaching the various areas of the cerebral cortex like motor, premotor and other areas. Like that, we have collaterals, reticular formation, superior colliculus, diffuse projection, cerebellar nucleus, substantia nigra, globus pallidus and striatum. Every part of the brain, it is making connections with the thalamus before it is relaying into the cerebral cortex. Hence, it is indicating the importance of the intralaminar nuclei in the control of electrocortical activity of cerebral cortex. We can also see the midline nuclei. The midline nuclei are also receiving afferents from the collaterals of the spinothalamic tracts, isn't it? So the midline nuclei is involved in the regulation of visceral activities, and it is connected with hypothalamus, dorsomedial and intralaminar nuclei of thalamus. So reticular thalamic nucleus. It receives afferents from cerebral cortex and other thalamic nuclei. Efferents are going to thalamic nuclei in brainstem. Reticular formation does not provide projection fibers to cerebral cortex, hence does not belong to reticular system. Reticular thalamus is concerned with the regulation of intrathalamic activity. So this is one picture. This picture you can take as a standard picture for the thalamus in case of anatomy, because it has been taken from the TUS anatomy, which is a standard book. So please follow this picture to label the various nuclei of the thalamus. Now coming to the functional organization of thalamic nuclei, specific relay nuclei, they receive input from ascending pathway or from subcortical nuclei, establish reciprocal connections with specific primary areas of cerebral hemisphere with specific sensory or motor functions. So it includes ventral tire nuclei and medial and lateral geniculate bodies. Association nuclei do not receive direct input from ascending tracts. Reciprocal connections with association areas of cerebral cortex, nuclei of dorsal tire and dorsomedial nucleus. Non-specific nuclei have no direct connections with cerebral cortex, intralaminar nuclei, midline nuclei and reticular nuclei. So connections between cerebral cortex and thalamus, reciprocal connections between cerebral cortex and thalamus, they form a fan-shaped thalamic radiation, passes through different parts of internal capsule, subdivided into 4 peduncles: anterior, posterior, superior and inferior. You can see this is anterior thalamic radiation, this is posterior thalamic, this is superior thalamic and this is inferior thalamic radiations. So anterior peduncle connects frontal lobe to the dorsomedial nucleus and anterior nucleus of thalamus, passes through the anterior limb of the internal capsule. Okay, this one, this area. Then superior peduncle connects the ventral nuclei of the thalamus with pre and post central gyri, passes through posterior limb of internal capsule. Posterior peduncle connects lateral geniculate body with primary visual cortex. So traverses retrolentiform part of the internal capsule. Also includes connections between pulvinar and association areas of the cortex. Inferior peduncle, which is a narrow band through which sublentiform part of the internal capsule connects medial geniculate body with transverse temporal gyri of facial areas 41 and 42, which we find in the temporal lobe. Now coming to the functions of thalamus, it is final relay station of all sensory pathways except olfactory senses before being transmitted to cerebral cortex. Here the sensory information is processed and integrated with the activities of forebrain, concerned with conscious interpretation of crude sensations like pain and temperature. It has significant role in ascending reticular activating system for arousal or alertness of sensory integration. The affective tone of sensory appreciation relates to depth of feeling or emotional behavior of an individual. Thalamic neurons modulate the synchronization and desynchronization of brain waves of EEG, what you study in physiology, electroencephalogram, regulates activities of motor pathways by linking cerebellum and globus pallidus with motor cortex through ventral anterior and the nil nuclei. Thalamic syndrome usually occurs subsequent to vascular lesions of thalamus. That means if any blood vessel is blocked, thalamus is not receiving blood supply, that will lead to thalamic syndrome when patient is recovering from thalamic infarct. Symptoms vary according to site and extent of lesion. All modalities of somatic sensation may be diminished on contralateral side of the body. Threshold for touch, pain, Temperature is decreased on opposite side, thalamic overreaction. When threshold is reached, sensations are expressed in perverted, exaggerated and disagreeable forms. Pinprick may be felt as intolerable burning pain. Pleasant music may create annoyance to affected individual. Emotional instability with spontaneous laughing and crying. Sometimes patient with eyes closed is unable to locate position of limb or may develop an illusion that limb is lost. You call it as thalamic phantom limb. Thalamic lesions may be associated with abnormal involuntary movements in the form of chorioathetosis or intention tremors when projection fibers from basal ganglia or cerebellum are involved. Okay, so that is all about the thalamus. Okay, now let us discuss third ventricle. I said third ventricle is very important 5 marks question in neuroanatomy. It's very simple also. Just now we have done thalamus. So between the right and left thalamus, whatever space is there, that is the interthalamic space, which is lined by ependymal cells. And this cavity is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. It represents primitive cavity of forebrain vesicle. Right thalamus, left thalamus, interthalamic cleft. This empty space is filled with CSF. So this cavity is nothing but third ventricle. So you can see right and left lateral ventricles, interventricular foramen of Monro. From here, the CSF is now moving to third ventricle. So it has certain presenting parts like it has anterior wall, it has posterior wall, it has roof and then floor. Okay, and two lateral walls. So, okay, just I want every one of you to practice this diagram. Automatically you will write everything. Okay, now suppose when you talk about anterior wall, what are we finding here? Anterior commissure, lamina terminalis, optic chiasma. Suppose if you are talking about roof, what are we finding here? Column of fornix, tela choroidea of third ventricle. Suppose if you are talking about posterior wall, this one. So what are we finding? Habenular commissure, pineal gland, right? Now, suppose if we are talking about floor. So what are we finding? Mammillary body, posterior perforated substance, and a part of midbrain, right? And this is one lateral wall. The other side of the thalamus will be one more lateral wall. That means between the two lateral walls of the thalamus, the space is third ventricle. This is interthalamic adhesions area. This is hypothalamic sulcus, which divides the thalamus from the hypothalamus. Yellow in color is interthalamic connections or adhesions. Now let us elaborate the same thing. This is anterior wall, which is formed from before backwards by lamina terminalis, anterior commissure, which invades the upper part of the lamina and diverging columns of fornix. Triangular recess, that is the anterior recess, extends forwards above the anterior commissure. This point, this number 3 is written, right? This. Always recesses are extensions of empty cavities. So this is the anterior recess, which is extending above anterior commissure and between diverging columns of fornix. These are diverging columns of fornix. This is anterior commissure. In between this, we have the anterior recess, or you can also call it as vulva. This is anterior recess, number 3. Then posterior wall, this one, right? So above the pineal gland, this point, you call it as suprapineal recess. Okay, for number 4, above pineal gland. Then immediately above, like pineal body, you have the pineal recess. Okay, so pineal recess, it is triangular, number 5. Extends into stalk of pineal body. Then we have upper lamina, posterior wall. Traversed by habenular commissure, it's written here, habenular commissure. Upper black dot, lower lamina, where we have posterior commissure. Commissural fibers we have studied when we were doing white matter of cerebrum. And commissure, I said, we have commissural fibers and association fibers. The largest commissural fiber is corpus callosum. These commissures are actually connecting right and left cerebral hemispheres, isn't it? So this is corpus callosum. And here we have the anterior commissure, okay, the posterior commissure, habenular commissure. Now, the roof of the third ventricle is formed by ependyma that stretches across the upper limits of the two thalami. This is right thalamus, this is left thalamus, supplemented above by tila choroideae, which are nothing but network of capillaries, body of fornix, fringes of choroid plexus projecting into ependymal roof. Okay, it's better you do the roof in this way. Interventricular foramen you are finding, tila choroideae you are finding, and column of fornix. Then coming to the floor, slopes downwards and forwards, present from before backwards. We have optic chiasma, then infundibulum of the pituitary gland, tuber cinereum, pair of mammillary bodies, this one, mammillary body, posterior perforated substance, subthalamic tegmental portion of midbrain. Okay, if you just learn this picture, you will write in your own words. So floor is also presenting two extensions of the third ventricle, two recesses. Above the optic chiasma, number 2, this is the supraoptic recess. Above the pituitary gland, number 1, this is infundibular recess. Okay, this is anterior recess, this is supraoptic, this is infundibular, this is penial, and this is suprapenial. These are the various recesses what we have studied with third ventricle. This whole thing, whatever you see, is lateral wall, which presents the hypothalamic sulcus. This one from interventricular foramen, black one. So you can see to the commencement of the cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius, which connects the CSF from the third ventricle to the fourth ventricle. This is the fourth ventricle, isn't it? Behind the pons medulla oblongata, below the cerebellum, we have fourth ventricle. So lower small part is formed by the nuclei of hypothalamus, lateral wall. Now we know like all the ventricles will have capillary network, which is called choroid plexus, present in the pia mater tila choroideae. Tila choroideae, and the roof of third ventricle is triangular in shape, this one, third ventricle. Choroid plexus of third ventricle hangs downwards from tila choroideae as two longitudinal antero-posterior vascular fringes. Blood vessels are derived from anterior choroidal arteries. Suppose if there is obstruction of third ventricle, which is beginning as a narrow slit-like space, and it is easily obstructed by local brain tumors or certain congenital defects. So obstruction results in excessive accumulation of CSF in the brain, resulting in increased intracranial pressure in adults and hydrocephalus in children. Hydrocephalus picture I kept in lateral ventricle PPT class. The site of obstruction can be found by ventriculography. So that's it. Thank you.